Hello everyone. In this video we are going to continue our discussion about animal diversity, and what we will do similar to what we have done in plants. So if you remember, in plants we have covered the diagram of reproduction, the sexual reproduction, the cell cycle, and the asexual methods of reproduction in plants. And then we ended the plants with discussing nutrient acquisition and transport of these nutrients and water throughout the plant. So we will do more or less the similar thing here. We will start by discussing sexual and asexual reproduction in the animals, and we will end up with covering the acquisition of nutrients, which is absorption, and then elimination of the waste through the digestive system. So starting with sexual reproduction, so let's define it. So this is the creation of offspring by fusion of a male gamete, in other words the sperm, and female gamete, which is the egg, to form a zygote. Here we need to mention something, that the presence of the X and Y chromosomes, for example, is not universal in all the animals. So sometimes it becomes a little bit confusing to determine which is the male gamete and which is the female gamete. So there are different ways to determine that. But let's put something that we will agree on, and that is what is followed in literature. So usually the male gametes is the smaller gamete, and usually it has the flagella, so it is motile, and the female is the one producing the larger gamete. So the male is the one producing the smaller gamete, and the female is the one producing the larger gamete. Then what is asexual reproduction? It is the creation of offspring without the fusion of egg and sperm. So we want to stop here and consider the pros and cons of each method of reproduction. So sexual reproduction is slower. You need to find the partner, and it is more energetically costly. It goes through many steps, and it provides more variation in the genetic combination. So this could be advantageous in cases when the environment is changing a lot, and maybe the individuals are not suiting the environment. So because of that and the variation in the environment, so it is better to produce this genetic combination and to mix the gene pool. If we move on to the asexual reproduction, the advantage is that it is fast. It doesn't require finding a partner, doesn't need a mate, and also it has an advantage when the genetics are well suited to the environment. So whenever the environment is stable, there are no changes in the environment, and individuals are suiting this environment. So it makes sense that it would be advantageous to have next generation that carries the same exactly genetic constituents of their previous generation. So, and that's because asexual reproduction, in asexual reproduction, 100% of the genes are passed from the previous generation to the next one, but in the sexual production we are passing 50% of the gene of the individual, and 50% will come from the other partner or mate. So there are pros and cons of that. So as I said, it depends on the environment, and mostly the environment is changing. That's why we find sexual reproduction to be more common in some environments. When we cover the mechanisms of asexual reproduction, we'll find the first one is fission. So fission is separation of a parent into two or more individuals of about the same size, and this can be seen in many invertebrates. So for example, here this flatworm is dividing into two individuals, and as you see, they are more or less of the same size. And then we have another method of asexual reproduction, that's budding. So budding, new individuals arise from the outgrowth of existing ones. So as you can see here, this is a hydra. So what is happening? The rate of cell division increases in certain area of the body. So that will, so let's say increase in this area. So this increase in cell division will result in the formation of this bud. And at the end, this bud will separate from the previous organism, and it will be like a separate individual. So here is another example. So what will happen? This bud will separate into a new hydra. And what we can say about the budding and binary fission or fission is that one difference is here we have the two individuals, they are more or less of the same size, but in the budding usually the bud is smaller than the other individual. So moving on, we have fragmentation. So fragmentation is the breaking of the body into pieces, and then some of all of these pieces will develop into adults. So here, for example, a starfish. So this small piece that has been broken from the body, so this will develop into an individual organism. And as you see here, an example of fragmentation in the sea star. Then the next one is the parthenogenesis. So it is the development of a new individual from unfertilized egg. And because of that, if we refer back to the meaning of the word parthenogenesis, this means virgin birth, because the egg does not need the sperm for fertilization. So because of that, it is virgin birth. One example of organism that we will see parthenogenesis in it is Daphnia. So Daphnia is sometimes referred to as water fleas. So here we can see female Daphnia, and it produces diploid eggs. These diploid eggs will develop into female daughters, which will grow up into adults and then produce another diploid eggs that will develop into females. So this cycle of parthenogenetic reproduction will continue whenever the temperature is warm enough, whenever the resources are available, so whenever the environment is suitable and stable. So once the environment becomes not suitable, for example, if during winter when it is really cold, or when the nutrients become not available, or when the pond becomes very crowded, so what will happen? These signals will give the signal to the Daphnia to produce males, and these are also diploid males, so parthenogenetic son. And what will happen? They will grow up and mature, and also this Daphnia will, at these conditions, it will produce haploid egg. So as you know, haploid egg needs fertilization, and this fertilization will happen by the male. So now after fertilization, now we have moved or switched to the sexual reproduction. So what will happen inside the female? It will carry the eggs in this special pouch, and then it will release these eggs in the water, so at the bottom of the sea, and they will remain there till the conditions become suitable again, so it will go to the parthenogenetic cycle of reproduction. So as you can see, whenever the environment is stable, whenever the environment and the individuals are suiting their environment, it will prefer the asexual reproduction because of the previous advantages. But when the conditions or the environment are not suitable, now they will switch to the sexual reproduction. So here in this figure you can see more zoomed in image of Daphnia and the eggs that they carry. And as we said, the method of reproduction in Daphnia is defined as parthenogenesis.